Hello, my name is Zach, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to create code blocks in PHP. Right now I just have a basic HTML document. I have a title up here of Hello World. I then have my heading tag that says Hello World, and you can see that in the browser here. And now I'm going to create some PHP code blocks so that we can display text to the screen. The first and most popular way to create a code block is a less than symbol, question mark, and then PHP. So that's your opening tag, and your closing tag is a question mark greater than symbol. So again, this is your opening tag, and this is your closing tag. Now I can use a simple print statement here. So now I have my opening tag, my PHP statement or code, and then my ending tag. There has to be at least one space before that ending question mark and one space after the PHP. If I save this and run this in the browser, oops, syntax error on line 7. Oh, I didn't put my ending parentheses. So if I run this in the browser, we see hello computer. So it parsed this code. Now if you want to make this more readable, let's say you were going to do this 2 times. This doesn't look so pretty. So we can move these down here and hit tab and move this one down a line and move that down. And now we've made this more readable. If I save this, run on the browser, you can see it prints it all on one line, even though it's 2 separate lines on here. The reason is because you need to include HTML in there to tell it to go to a new line. So by simply adding some HTML there and running this in the browser, we now see it on 2 lines. Okay, let's go back to the editor, and I'm going to show you how to create another code block. This here doesn't change, so that's our PHP code. We're simply talking about creating the code block that tells PHP to execute this code. So the second way is to simply remove these 3 letters, PHP. We call this the short tag, and so we have our opening tag and our closing tag. They look the same. You simply are using a less than, question mark, and then question mark greater than for your opening and closing tags. So if I save this and run it, it won't do anything, even though that's a valid and correct way to create a code block. The reason it doesn't do anything is, let me bring up my PHP ini file. So this is the PHP ini file. This is where you can change settings for the PHP language. And I'm going to do a search for short, one more, let's see. There it is. Short underscore open underscore tag. See, it's off. It's off by default. And you notice their note in here says using short tags should be avoided when developing applications or libraries that are meant for redistribution or development on PHP servers which are not under your control, because short tags may not be supported on the target server. For portable redistributable code, be sure not to use short tags. Again, it's turned off by default, and so if you write some code using that method and you give that code to others and they try to run it on their server, it might not work because they might not have this turned on. So just avoid it unless you need it for some reason. there is a third method, and it's different than these two, but it looks very similar to HTML, and it really basically is. It's a script tag that we use like when we create JavaScript code blocks. So we do our script, and then we want to select a language, and then PHP. So we have our script tag, opening script tag, and then we have a closing script tag. And that tells PHP that this is PHP code in between this tag and the closing tag. So that's three different ways you can do or create PHP code blocks. Now there's one last thing I want to show you, and this is really what makes PHP powerful, and that's the ability to enter code blocks and exit code blocks. So you can go from PHP to HTML and then back into PHP code blocks and then back into HTML again. If I can say oops. Finally, more HTML. Okay, so we have our PHP code here. We then have our HTML, more PHP, and more HTML. PHP will, every time it sees this, it then begins parsing the code. When it hits this, it simply exits and continues to scan the document line by line until it hits another opening tag, and then begins parsing PHP, and then sees the closing tag and will continue down until it reaches the end here, and because there is no more PHP, it simply finishes. But it will, you can create multiple code blocks. So that's pretty much all there is to creating code blocks and working with them and embedding it into HTML. The reason this is powerful is up here I have my heading. Well, I can put my PHP code and say print this is a heading. You notice that I have my HTML here and my HTML here, and then I have my PHP code in between there, but this whole thing here will get replaced with this is a heading. So that's why it's so powerful. So if I save this, run this in the browser, we say this is a heading because it printed out this text here in between the H1 tags. So that's all there is.